Welcome back. Let me ask you something. What if the woman sleeping beside you isn't the same soul you married and hasn't been for years? What if she smiles like before, kisses you goodnight, says the same words, but somewhere behind those eyes, she's drifting further from the girl you once knew? This is not betrayal. It's not rebellion. It is evolution. And unless you see it clearly, with a stoic heart and unshaken mind, you may lose the very person you vowed to love. Marcus Aurelius once said, "Observe constantly that all things take place by change. You married a soul in motion, not a statue to admire." In this video, we will not blame, we will not fear, we will understand, we will walk through 8 uncomfortable truths that no one dares say aloud about married women, and how a stoic man must rise, not to control, but to witness her becoming without losing himself. So take a breath, step out of illusion, and come with me into the truth that few men are brave enough to face. Number 1, the woman you married no longer exists. And that's not a betrayal. They say love changes with time, but what they don't tell you is that sometimes the very person you fell in love with disappears while still standing right in front of you. Welcome back to the journey. Today we dive into one of the most confronting truths about modern relationships, the emotional transformation of a married woman, and why, through the lens of Stoicism, her changes are not signs of betrayal, but symptoms of silent adaptation. It begins slowly. She still smiles. She still takes care of things. She may still say, "I love you," but something in her eyes has shifted. There's a kind of distance, like she's present in body, but adrift in soul. The version of her that once laughed effortlessly, dreamed out loud, challenged you with fire in her voice, is now replaced by someone who plays the role of the good wife. You didn't marry a stranger, but now you're living with one. And here's the Stoic truth. This transformation isn't treachery, it's survival. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The universe is change. Our life is what our thoughts make it." For many married women, the external changes, motherhood, expectations, routine, become internal prisons. Their emotional reality is shaped not by betrayal, but by invisible social forces. She adapts, not because she wants to, but because she believes she must. She becomes who the family needs her to be, the patient one, the understanding one, the always available one. And in this slow erosion of selfhood, the woman you knew fades not out of malice, but out of duty. Here's where most men go wrong. They see her distance and assume, "She doesn't love me anymore." But Stoicism challenges you to ask a deeper question. Have I paid attention to who she is becoming, or am I still holding on to who she used to be? Love, according to Stoicism, is not possession. It's perception. It's the discipline of seeing someone as they are, now not how you wish them to remain. Too many relationships suffer because one person refuses to evolve, while the other is quietly transforming. She doesn't need you to fix her. She needs you to witness her. Ask her about her current dreams, not the ones from 5 years ago. Ask what scares her now, what excites her, what version of herself she's hiding because the house, the schedule, or even you never left space for it. This is not about blame, it's about responsibility. As Epictetus said, "You are not disturbed by events, but by your perception of them." If you perceive her shift as rejection, you will react defensively. But if you see it as a cry for recognition, you'll respond with presence. Because here's the Stoic secret. The most courageous act of love is not holding on to who someone was. It's learning to fall in love with who they are becoming. This means stepping out of nostalgia, releasing the comfort of the familiar. It means acknowledging that marriage is not a monument to the past, but a mirror that constantly reflects your partner's evolution. Yes, she has changed. And yes, that change might scare you, But fear is not your master, not if you live by Stoic principles. So what do? You return to her, not to the old her, but to the one emerging. You don't ask her to become less complex. You grow your capacity to understand her depth. You ask meaningful questions. You don't assume. You stay curious. You show up not as her owner, but as her witness. And that, my friend, is how you become irreplaceable. Now speak out and comment below. I fall in love with who she is becoming. Number 2, the emotional chameleon. Why she no longer knows who she is. You look at her and she smiles. She cooks dinner, helps the kids, checks the calendar. Everything seems fine, but deep down something isn't right. Not with the marriage, with her identity. She's exhausted, not just physically, but existentially. Welcome back. Today we confront a truth most men miss entirely. That many married women become emotional chameleons, adjusting to everyone's needs until they forget who they are. And you might be sleeping beside a woman who doesn't even recognize herself anymore. It's not about resentment, it's about erosion, a slow, quiet slipping away of the inner self. She adapts to the kids, to you, to work, to what's expected of her as a good wife. And one day, she's no longer being, she's just performing. This is identity diffusion. Carl Jung called it the danger of the persona, the mask we wear so long, we forget the face beneath it. For women, especially married ones, this mask often becomes permanent, and they don't even realize they've disappeared behind it. You might notice it in her silence, in the way she hesitates when you ask, "What do you want to do this weekend?" Or how she brushes off her own needs with phrases like, "It's fine, whatever you want." That's not her being agreeable. That's her forgetting she has a self. Stoicism teaches us to strip away illusion not just in the world, but in our relationships. Epictetus once said, "Know first who you are and then adorn yourself accordingly." But how can she know who she is when her days are spent adjusting, pleasing, and suppressing? You may love her, but you might be loving a version of her she no longer feels connected to. So what do? You create space for her to remember herself. No, not with grand gestures, with sincere questions, with curiosity that has nothing to do with your expectations. Ask her, "What have you stopped doing that used to make you feel alive?" Or, "Is there a part of you that you've been hiding because this house doesn't feel safe for it?" And listen not as a fixer, but as a man who values her complexity. Because when she adjusts too long without being seen, she disappears even from herself. And that disappearance creates an emotional void no "I love you" can fill. So stop loving the role she plays. Start loving the person hidden beneath it. And remember, her transformation isn't rebellion, it's survival. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one. Be the kind of man who doesn't need his wife to be predictable. Be the kind of man who dares to explore her wildness, her evolving truth. Be the mirror that reflects not who she was, but who she might still become." Now, comment below, "I choose to see the woman behind the mask." Number 3, admiration addiction. Why I love you isn't enough anymore. Welcome back. Here's a quiet truth about the woman you married. She doesn't just want your love, she wants your admiration. And if you don't give it to her, someone else might. You tell her, "I love you" often, maybe even every day, but it doesn't light her up like it used to. She smiles politely, says thank you, but something's missing. Here's why. Over time, the words "I love you" can become routine, predictable. And for many women, especially those whose days blur between laundry, deadlines, and emotional labor routine, feels like erasure. Carl Jung once said, "The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely." But a woman cannot do that in a marriage where her unique essence goes unnoticed. She doesn't want to be adored like a symbol. She wants to be seen as a force of intellect, creativity, intuition, as a person, not just a wife. What she truly craves is recognition of her power, her mind, her spark. So while you're saying I love you, she's wondering, do you see how far I've come? Do you notice what I'm building? Do you value my depth or just my role? She wants admiration for what makes her her, not just for being yours. Here's the test. When was the last time you praised her for something that required effort or courage? Not her appearance, not her mothering, but her insight, her ambition, her creative fire. Say this, the way you handled that meeting was incredible. Tell me more about how you prepared for it. Or I love how you always find meaning in things. That's what makes you rare. When admiration replaces routine affection, her soul begins to feel nourished again. Because women, at their core, long to be witnessed, not just loved. John Gottman, the world's leading researcher on marriage, found that the single most important predictor of a woman's satisfaction in a relationship is whether she feels appreciated. It's not the trips, it's not the gifts. It's whether her inner world is recognized as valuable. That's your invitation, not to flatter but to acknowledge, not to worship her beauty but to respect her mind. And this doesn't just benefit her. When a woman feels admired, she becomes softer, warmer, more emotionally open, because admiration speaks to her worth not as a wife, but as a woman becoming, as Marcus Aurelius put it, dwell on the beauty of life. Watch the stars and see yourself running with them. When you admire her, she remembers she's a star, still capable of shining, even in the weight of responsibility. Now comment below. I admire her evolution, not just her role. Number 4. The loneliness epidemic. When she feels most alone is with you. Welcome back. There's a silence deeper than words. It lingers in the kitchen while you drink coffee together. It hovers in bed between kisses that feel like echoes. It lives in her eyes even when she says, I'm fine. And here's the paradox. She feels loneliest not when you're gone, but when you're right next to her and still don't see her. It's not because you stopped loving her. It's because you're still loving the version of her that no longer exists. She's grown. She's changed. She's become someone new, someone even she is still discovering, but you're still holding on to the woman she was, the one who once laughed at your jokes without hesitation, who once glowed in your approval. Now she's quieter, more thoughtful, and sometimes emotionally distant. You think, what's wrong with her? But the better question is, what hasn't been said between us? According to a study by the American Psychological Association, married women are significantly more likely to report emotional loneliness than their single counterparts. Why? Because when their identity is swallowed by the role of wife or mother, they stop feeling known. They feel invisible. The philosopher Seneca said, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality, but for her, this suffering is very real, not because you're cruel, but because the one person who promised to know her completely has stopped being curious." So she sits in silence. And you think she's distant, but really she's grieving the loss of a connection that once made her feel alive. Here's what to do. Don't ask her the same old questions. Instead, shake the walls of routine. Try this. What's something you've always wanted to try but never told me? Or what's one belief you had 5 years ago that you no longer agree with? Watch her eyes. You'll see a flicker the part of her that longs to be known again. You're not trying to fix her. You're trying to meet the new her, the one who's been quietly waiting for your attention. Because love isn't sustained by repetition. It's fueled by curiosity. Your wife is not a statue. She's a living story still being written. And if you don't read her with wonder, someone else might. Now, speak out and comment below. I choose curiosity over comfort. Number 5. The disappearing self. when we replaces I too deeply. In the quiet routines of daily life, a woman slowly stops asking, "What do I want?" Instead, she starts asking, "What do we want?" And over time, "we" swallows me. You don't notice it at first. She smiles, she agrees, she adapts. You think she's just being supportive, but deep down, something sacred is fading her sense of self. It's the invisible cost of many marriages. The woman you married begins to blur the edges of who she once was, to fit into the version of wife the world expects. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "A man's worth is no greater than the worth of his ambitions." But what if she no longer knows her ambitions? What if she no longer remembers what used to make her feel alive? She says, "Whatever you think is best." She agrees before she thinks. She says yes, even when her soul whispers no, not because she's weak, but because she believes sacrificing her voice is love. And over time, you stop hearing her truth, not because she stopped speaking, but because you stopped asking the right questions. This is how marriages grow silent. She becomes the peacekeeper, the agreeable one, the steady companion, but she's not living, she's existing in the shell of who she used to be. And one day she may look at you and say, "I don't know who I am anymore," and it won't be your fault alone. It'll be the product of years of comfort, assumptions, and emotional autopilot. So what can you do? Invite her back into herself. Ask, "What do you disagree with me on that you've been quiet about?" Or, "What's something you've suppressed for the sake of peace?" Encourage her to say the things you might not want to hear. Because when she tells you her truth, even if it stings, that's when she feels safe again. Stoicism isn't about suppressing emotion. It's about honoring truth without attachment. So let her speak, even if it shakes the ground beneath you. Because real love doesn't ask for agreement, it asks for honesty. Now speak out and comment below. I choose her truth over my comfort. Number 6. When she cheats, it's not always about sex, it's about being seen. You thought she was fulfilled. She had a husband, a home, maybe even children. But one day you find out she was emotionally involved, or worse, physically involved with someone else. And you ask yourself, why? Here's the truth that stings. Most women don't cheat for sex. They cheat to feel seen again, not admired for their body, not adored for their looks, but truly seen for the depth of their thoughts, the complexity of their emotions, and the mind they've hidden behind domestic roles. You see, the other man didn't have to be more handsome. He just had to ask better questions. Questions like, "What do you think about that? Why do you feel that way? What's something about you most people overlook?" In that moment, he touched something sacred, her identity. Not the woman who cooks, folds, supports, but the woman who used to write poems, the one who once dreamed of traveling alone, the one who used to challenge ideas in a classroom, not just mediate children's arguments in the kitchen. Carl Jung once said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." But in marriage, many women quietly give up that privilege until someone reminds them they still have it, and that someone might not be you. So here's the Stoic truth. Don't wait until she strays to become curious. Don't wait until she's lost to want to find her again. Be the man who's still fascinated by her evolving self. Ask the questions others are too afraid or too lazy to ask. What idea has been living in your head lately? What's something I haven't noticed about you recently? Not to catch her before she falls, but to catch up to who she's become. Marcus Aurelius reminded us, be tolerant with others and strict with yourself. So stop assuming you know her and start earning the right to know her now. Because the danger isn't that she finds someone better. The danger is that someone else listens better. Now speak out and comment below. I choose to see her soul, not just her role. Number 7. To love a woman is to love her while she's changing, not before. There's a silent fear many husbands carry. She's no longer the woman I married. Her laughter has changed. Her dreams have shifted. The fire in her eyes now burns for different things. And yet you still try to love the version of her that existed 5 years ago. The version that was easier to understand, easier to predict. But she's not there anymore. She's here changing, unfolding, becoming. And this is where most men fail. They love her as she was, but not as she is, and certainly not as she's becoming. True Stoicism does not resist change, it embraces it. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Observe constantly that all things take place by change." So, the woman you married, she had to evolve. Life demanded it. Motherhood shaped her. Loneliness sculpted her. Experience rearranged her soul. Loving her now means loving the woman who's questioning, struggling, growing, not just the one who once smiled in a white dress. Let me make it even clearer. The distance you feel between you isn't betrayal. It's evolution. She's not pulling away. She's pulling inward, trying to reconnect with herself. Your job is not to drag her back to the past. Your job is to meet her in the present, not with suspicion, not with disappointment, but with genuine curiosity. Try asking, who are you becoming? What scares you about that? How can I stand beside that version of you without caging it? This is radical acceptance. This is Stoic love. It's not the love of comfort or routine. It's the love that sees the soul's becoming as sacred, even when inconvenient. Seneca once said, "If you wish to be loved, love, but not just any kind of love. Love that stretches, love that adapts, love that listens, not just remembers." Because the woman beside you today, she is a living story, not a statue to preserve, but a mystery to witness. Now, speak out and comment below. I love her for who she is becoming, not just who she was. Number 8. Marriage is not ownership. It's a journey with a soul in motion. You didn't marry a fixed identity. You married a soul on a journey, and your job was never to own her. Your job was to walk beside her through every version of her that would emerge. Modern culture likes to sell us the fantasy of permanence, that once you say I do, the story is set in stone, that who she was on your wedding day will be who she remains forever. But that's not love, that's possession. Marcus Aurelius taught, accept everything which happens, even if it seems disagreeable, because it leads to where you must go. Your wife isn't just your partner, she is a becoming, a river in motion, a constellation slowly shifting. If you try to trap her in your expectations, you will lose her. Not because she leaves, but because her truth will hide from you. She will no longer feel safe to become in your presence. And when a woman stops feeling seen, she begins to disappear even while lying next to you. But when you become her witness, her fellow traveler, her ally in the unknown, something beautiful happens. She blooms, not because she's trying to impress you, but because she knows she is free to grow. This kind of marriage doesn't cling. It doesn't fear change. It honors change as sacred. Ask yourself, have I made room in our marriage for her to surprise me? Have I let go of who I want her to be long enough to truly see who she is now? Carl Jung once said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." That privilege applies to her, and it applies to you. Marriage, then, is not a chain. It's a shared path, not a role you each must play forever, but a dance of evolving identities. You are not here to fix her. You are not here to keep her the same. You are here to hold space to grow together. She is not your past. She is your present mystery and your future unfolding. The moment you stop expecting her to stay the same is the moment love becomes real again. Now, comment below. I walk beside her soul, not behind it, not ahead of it. You've just seen what most men ignore, not because they're blind, but because it's easier to cling to the memory of who she was. than to confront the mystery of who she's becoming. But you're not like most men. You chose to see. You chose to stay present. You chose to listen not just to her words, but to her silence. That is Stoic love, not built on fantasy, but forged in fire. Seneca said, "If you wish to be loved, love with reason. Love her not as a role, love her as a soul, and never forget she is changing. So are you." The greatest act of devotion is to grow beside her, not ahead of her, not behind her, but beside her. Now speak out and comment below. I walk beside her soul, not behind it, not ahead of it. And if this message opened something in you, subscribe. Because we don't just talk about women, we talk about truth. We talk about strength. We talk about the kind of love that endures chaos and comes out wiser. Welcome to Stoicism. Welcome to becoming.